Welcome everyone to a special platinum golden edition of Coffee with the Coaches. I'm sat here with guys that used to be my assistants at Ipswich State High School, but that will come out more as we go along. I've got with me, in no particular order, Jonathan Dorr, Jay Dorr, the current Ipswich Jets S&C coach. How are you doing, Dorr?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks for having me on, Lee. I'm excited.
What coffee have you got?
Cappuccino, mate, from one of the local shops.
I wouldn't expect anything less from you, Johnny.
Yeah, only the best for John Dorr.
That's right. Johnny joined us in 2016. No coincidence, I left in 2017, and was the Jets S&C coach in 2020 onwards. First year was pretty much wiped out by the Rona, wasn't it? Also, really,
yep.
You were the S&C coach from 2021, I think, and then Queensland Country S&C as well recently. But the big gig, the one that shaped your life as it is now, rugbyleaguecoach.com.au, and also Poland in 2018 with yours truly as the head coach. And then that links us in kindly and nicely with Shane Harris, who is now the head coach of the Ipswich Malmeninga team. That's right, isn't it? First time. How's your off-season going, bud?
Yeah, good. First 4-week block was really exciting. So, no, I'm enjoying it.
Good. And you've been an assistant there for a while. You were also with Poland with me, Ipswich Diggers, and you joined Icky High in 2014. I think you were a student teacher in 2013, though, weren't you?
Yeah, I did 2 pracks, one in 2011, one in 2013. So, yeah.
All right. We didn't need your life history. Calm down. And John, and that leads me nicely into the current head coach, Josh Breatherton, the veteran of Ipswich State High School, the current Queensland 15s white coach. Again, also for 2 years, but 2 years were wiped out by the Rona.
Yeah, Corona killing us. Yeah,
you've got a great record, mate. No losses. Keep going. And current assistant coach of Queensland City under-17s, and the head coach of Ipswich State High since 2018. Boys, first of all, thank you. Welcome. Harris, I forgot to ask you about your coffee.
Yeah, no, just a basic pod for me. So now the machine, so it's all right.
There's nothing basic of it.
Decent drop.
You expect nothing less from me.
Yeah, right.
Coffee with the Coaches regulars are au fait with that cup. I rarely watch it. I just sort of rinse it every morning. And
that cup must have the expensive pods in it, I reckon.
That's right. And Breatho, a non-coffee drinker. What have you come up with?
Yeah, I've got my cup of water here just so I can pretend to be a gentleman like the rest of you.
Hey, you're pulling it off well, brother.
The tricks of digital television. Let's go straight into it. Breatho, I'm going to put a time limit on you because I know what you like.
Yes, I'll do my best to keep it short.
I arrived. You were at Ipswich 2009 onwards.
Yep.
Briefly, can you just sort of explain what the program was like between 2009 and October 2012 when you met me?
Yeah, so the program was basically a behaviour modification tool. So it had existed like before my arrival, and I started there just as a young teacher who sort of just got involved in some, rugby league coaching for them, doing local inter-school stuff. And I suppose the pinnacle of what they were doing from a football point of view was trying to compete locally in Ipswich against other local schools. There was in the pantheon of rugby league football, it was a very basic program. But the guys who were running it, prior to me arriving, were doing a very good job as far as using it as a behaviour modification tool. So it existed as a subject, and they were using it to help engage kids with schooling. They weren't so much worried about on-field outcomes.
I'm going to put a picture up right now, Breatho. You can see
yes.
You and I looking very youthful. This was from a newspaper article not long after you and I met. In the next 3 minutes, can you try and sum up what happened over the next 5 years?
So we both aged terribly, as you can tell from the photo.
Rugby league's a cruel. Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Rugby league's a cruel game. The next 5 years, we took a extraordinarily rapid rise from a program that, like I say, sort of existed but wasn't so much worried about on-field outcomes, to a program, quite frankly, that could match it with the best schools in the country. So from the day, I suppose there was sort of 2 phases to it. One was myself and the deputy principal at the time, Mick Hornby, sort of got together and decided we wanted to try and be more competitive or make a more elite version of the program. And we sort of took the first few steps towards doing that, building a competitive Year 8 team that went quite well in a Broncos comp, and putting together some basic structures and stuff in the school, but it was all still sort of very crude. And then when you arrived, we met late 2012. Your first season was 2013. You obviously came in with all your knowledge, history, and coming from St Greg's and the other things that you'd done rugby league to put in a more formalised structure, knowing what that would best look like, sort of thing. So with that formalised structure, and then obviously a lot of hard work between yourself and supported by me, we started to take our climbs from competing locally to competing quite well Southeast Queensland wide in the second tier competition, and then all the way to the very top.
I remember Hornby ringing me when I was at St Gregory. So if you can picture the scene, Harris and Dorr, you've been to Ipswich. You know it's quite pleasant now, but it's also very basic in some places. The school, and I was at a palatial St Gregory's where there were ice cold water bubblers everywhere. Gardens were pristine. There were tennis courts, swimming pools, oval after oval after oval. There were cows, horses, cats, dogs, big swimming pool, you name it. And I had a guy called Mick Hornby calling me and saying, I want you to run this program at Ipswich. And I said, what have you got? And he basically explained what you just did, Brett. It's and he wanted to make it big. And he had to sell it to me. He had to sell me a vision, and credit to Mick Hornby, he had a vision. He wanted to make it big, and he got me up. He got me up for a chat, and I just basically asked him one question. I said, "Mick, do you want it to be the best in Australia?" And he basically said an emphatic yes. And he's certainly getting there anyway to this day. Harris, did you know anything about Ipswich back in these days at all? So you would have still been a student. Did you know of Ipswich State High?
No, I didn't know of it. No. So when I got my crack placement at Ipswich State High School, I had a few friends that knew the area and thought, "Oh, gee, this is going to be interesting." But I really enjoyed it.
Did you come expecting rugby league?
No, because it wasn't a thing. Well, I knew the big main schools kind of thing, and I was aware of school rugby league, but no, as far as Ipswich was concerned, nothing. So I showed up, and as brother explained with the behaviour management tool and what the program was, I was still super impressed, sort of walking in.
Was this your 2011?
Yeah, 2011, yeah.
Keep it there because I'm going to go to 2013 in a minute. But yeah, tell me a bit more about what you saw in 2011.
I just think as a behaviour management tool and what the aim of the program was at the time, it was ticking all the boxes and was doing a good thing. And it was enjoyment for all the students. And you compared the program to the rest of the school, and their attendance was definitely way better than everybody else's, and their engagement, and they were actually having a good time and looking forward to a subject. So I was super impressed by the whole thing.
Was there any good players there, Brother Harris?
In 2012, 2013?
No, 2011-ish.
Yeah, there was some good footballers dotted through those few years before 2013, but they were very much sort of individuals sort of thing. Not as in they played like individuals, but we'd sort of have a couple of good players and then try and base a team around that. Like I say, we're only trying to compete locally anyway, so we didn't have a whole lot to compare it to. I can remember, I couldn't remember exactly what year it was. It would have been about 2012, somewhere around there. We did a couple of Queensland Sevens tournaments, like rugby union.
Yeah.
And we did a couple of teams to that and actually did okay, like made it through some knockout rounds and stuff like that. And I can remember, obviously, like Harris said, you're aware of the big schools, your Keeper Parks, your Wavels and stuff from back being a young fella, watching things like Arrive Alive and stuff like that. Yeah. I can remember coming across Keeper Park at that thing with my ragtag group of Ipswich guys and sort of being a little bit in awe of the athletic specimens, because they were on a completely different planet to what we were operating with at the time, sort of thing. And they sort of seemed a little bit otherworldly. And we went out and did our best and sort of competed and lost, and but it's just sort of something that stuck in my mind. So then years down the track to be obviously working with that sort of athlete and producing that sort of athlete's a pretty rare sort of change, I suppose.
Jonathan Dawes turned his camera off. He must be doing something he doesn't want us to see, or a bit bored. Just behave yourself. Just behave yourself, no. Johnny. We'll be with you soon. You were still in Tully.
I've just got to get more data. My phone just sent me a message.
Yeah, We digress. Bretho, take us back to 2013 with a razor-sharp focus on the year 2013. Talk to us about your journey as a coach and what you remember.
So 2013 was our like ragtag side, right? Like it was
not ragtag. There was social.
Social.
Yeah.
So I suppose for me it was just growing and learning. I was very, very young, and being a young coach, my job was to obviously work hard, try and fill in gaps and roles where I could, sort of thing, and I try and have a strong work ethic. And the other thing about how to plan a football curriculum, and then there was other things that, quite frankly, were beyond me. It took me years to develop, sort of thing, in regards to being able to recruit talent and things like that, sort of thing. I mean, there's no secret that took a number of years for me to grow in confidence to do those sorts of things.
If you were to nail 3 things that you've changed as a coach since that time, what would you say?
Organizationally, I'm a whole lot better. So I reflect more critically, keep better notes, all those sorts of things. Like I remember you were, I wouldn't say I've reached your level. You were obsessive in the way that you would, and that's unfair, in the way that you would like journal and reflect and keep notes and all that sort of thing. It was what made you good at what you did. Yeah. So that was one thing that I took and learned a lot. Second thing is I've obviously developed massively as far as seeing the game more complexly. Like, I used to see the game through a very basic filter, whereas now I have a lot greater understanding of the nuances of rugby league. And what would be the third biggest thing that I've changed? Probably understanding the importance of relationship as well when it comes to coaching. It wasn't that I didn't have a relationship. I think particularly as a teacher, I was reasonably strong at developing relationships with the students I worked with and all that sort of stuff, but probably didn't always put that as like a valued tool towards coaching. When it came to coaching, I was sort of more worried about X's and O's and dots and making sure we're doing things right there, whereas it's actually true coaching is a combination of both.
When I think back to 2013, we went undefeated through the whole year, and I was still struggling to put into context everything because I've come up from Sydney. I've gone from England to Sydney for 6 years to Queensland, and when I tell stories about 2013, and Dora and Harris, you'll laugh at this too. But first of all, Riley said, "I'll be happy if you get to the quarterfinals of the Metro." I said, "Sorry, Riles, we're going to win the thing." Number 2. Before the final, there was a fella playing from Murrayfield who was really good. Like Bretho was alluding to, I was quite thorough and I was doing all my research and everything because that's all I do. Anyway, to put it into some kind of context now, I'm doing research on schools that are in the 3rd division. I didn't really know at the time. I didn't know where we were at. And I remember Phil Hall, who we got to know very well over the ensuing years. He was laughing at me because I rang him up to ask him about a player from the Murrayfield team, what his name was. And apparently the word was going around that what's Lee doing? It's only Metro. So I managed to put a target on our head straight away without even realising it. I was just trying to be thorough. And everyone was laughing at me because it was a 3rd division. So we went through that. And then, Harris, you turned up in 2014 from the middle of the year. Is that right?
Yeah, it was June, I think it was.
Yeah, so me and Bretho did all the hard work. You just came in and took all the credit.
Appreciate it, thanks.
So Pooley joined us. Pooley joined us in that year. What I will do, boys, Pooley can't be with us today because he's busy drinking amino acids or training or something like that.
You didn't show a picture of him doing his bodybuilding or anything like that, or?
Yeah, I'll get Pooley up on the picture. Don't you worry about that. While you've been talking, I've been getting several pictures pop up from back in the day. Can you see that screen, Bretho and Harris?
Yeah.
Dor, just behave yourself there. We'll get to you soon. You did join us in 2016. I asked Pooley his reflections and what he found when he arrived, football-wise. So all the key points are in yellow because you know what Pooley's like. This is like the Magna Carta. The biggest thing from the start, he said, was a program-wide game plan, complete with calls and set names that each grade was able to learn and follow. Harris, I'll bring you in on that. Is that commensurate with what you remember?
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think looking at the set calls and the names of plays and how it was just a standard thing across the entire program, and that was like a really easy thing to recognise.
I was going to say, how important do you think that is?
Yeah, I think it's really important as far as the development of players. I think it's nice when one of our boys goes from age 12 all the way through to great age 17, 18. If he's been doing the same thing over and over again for 4 or 5 years, kind of thing, I think it makes a huge difference for his confidence and being comfortable in a game when the pressure's on, just to know what to do.
Pooley mentioned here, Bretho recruiting very hard from within the local area, especially younger grades, and building a future first grade squad, learning the plan and structures for a few years prior to hitting the Opens age group. I guess I always felt one of the first years that the programme benefited from that, Bretho, was 2019, because that set of kids had come from year 7 all the way up to year 12. So it's a two-pronged question back to you, Bretho. How important is recruitment, and how important is that junior recruitment so they come through the grades and play in your team?
Yeah, look, junior recruitment is absolutely important. Like, and we still follow a similar model now where our most successful teams over the years, I think, like from your time there and then my time as well, I think are teams that have either a majority or absolutely like core group or core positions that have players that have come all the way through our program. Yeah. I think like it's always important to have, other faces come in and new faces and all that sort of stuff. But you've got to have that core group of guys who've come all the way through your system and know it absolutely inside and out, because that's what they fall back on when things become, high pressure. And so getting that right, getting, the right students in at a young age is really important, then obviously, when you're projecting years down the track sort of thing. As far as like, the comment on, there being a hard push for recruitment, there was, but I also just think like in general, we just started recruiting. You led a culture of, recruiting, which is quite frankly something that all top elite schools or sporting organisations or rugby league schools and stuff have to do. It just wasn't something that had existed, at Ipswich High previously. So, and it was, it was a really important piece for us taking the next step forward, is making sure we got the right kids into the school for the coming years. I'm
going to bring Dory in now because I know he's twitchy, and I'm going to allow him to speak about 2014, even though he wasn't there, because Peter has wrote some stuff pertaining to the gymnasium. First of all, I'll get this in. He said nice things here. He said the structure around all things football and non-football to enable us to be a professional outfit from the start. And he says how well-oiled he thinks our game day prep is. Harris, I always put a lot of that down to you. You produced a chart that I still use to this day, which was a game day checklist. Can you tell the viewers about your amazing game day checklist? Or you just wait there?
Well, you asked to do it, and I'll be honest, I copied it off a documentary I was watching. So it was. I'll take all the claim.
Was it about Winston Churchill?
No, I think it was like Gold Coast Titans or something. Might have been on the YouTube channel. So
yeah, nice.
Thanks, whoever the coach was at the time. But yeah, so I just copied it. But it's perfectly fine to copy and steal things off people.
So you're giving me the credit for something you copied.
Take the credit, exactly right. So thanks for that compliment. I appreciate it.
Dor.
It's a great document, though.
Thank you, Dor. Dor. Them 7 a.m. sessions that you're still doing now, we started them in 2014. Bretho said that'll never work, didn't you, Bretho?
I did.
According to Pooley.
I think I might have said that in 2012. I think I claimed it that early.
Do you remember the boys used to lift like they literally couldn't hold a bar? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Dory, just you wait there, me and Bretho were talking. Do you remember that? I remember being in that gym, the old gym, before we got the new funding for the gym. And like Liam, one of the players, he was more obsessed with the different colours of the weights than anything. Like he was all excited about that. But they reminded me of what you're like now on the bench press, Bretho, when they were trying to bench press.
I'm not silly enough to
press. Hey, at least they tried it.
Yeah. Harris, don't you talk? You're an F45 man now. You're playing around with it. So those 7 a.m. things are still going on, though. So you're drinking from the well that Pooley dug. I'm interested in your comment here because I bet you've changed it. He cut the programs right back to revolve around 4 to 6 main lifts. I assume that dash in there means 4 to 6 rather than 46. Squat, bench press, military press, deadlift, etc. Giving him the chance to nail technique first and foremost, and then working to get the boys stronger. Talk us through that, Door, and where it's at today.
Yeah, look, on that note, not a lot has changed. Like I'm a big believer in those core lifts as well, especially like in our gym sessions, there can be up to 60 or 70 boys at a time all working. So if you try and add too much fluff to the program, all you get is, a bunch of 18-year-old boys who are walking around not doing too much. So, we've stuck with that focus of squat, bench, and deadlift being really our main focus and nailing them. And, if you're strong, you're less likely to get injured and you're more likely to dominate in the game. So it's pretty simple from my end. Where's
Bretho going? Is that enough?
You were talking gyms. I just clocked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I had something beeping at me. Sorry,
Another thing I forgot to highlight, but I'm going to bring it in now. This is the beauty of digital television. With the 7 a.m. starts, the programs we use to set benchmarks, though, and also records. Back then, the records board, wasn't it, boys? It was a simple whiteboard with names written up. And myself and Pooley, we used to create strongest teams. So I don't know if you remember Bretho and Harris. We'd have a strongest team. We'd have the team that trained the best, the team that played the best. Mm-hmm. And we had a few teams lined up on the whiteboard. And if you made all 5, you were in. And do you remember that?
Yeah, there was a few different things there that we'd measure kids on. So sometimes boys could, make what in theory was a best 13, based on important effort areas that you'd identified.
That's right. Or being nice children.
And
then Pooley's made a thing there that based on their gym work, Ronaldo was in reserve grade, Ronaldo Mulatalo, and his twin brother was in first grade.
It doesn't surprise me at all that Pooley has information like that filed away somewhere in a filing cabinet.
Yes.
He would still have every record that was ever lifted in there.
I used to be able to ask Pooley. It was like asking Siri or asking Alexa, "Hey Pooley, who lifted 20 kilos at the gym on Wednesday, the 15th of July, 2015?" So Harris, picture yourself in 2014.
Yep.
A little bit slimmer, a little bit more energetic, a bit less facial hair, and your big memories of 2014. It was a good season.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I came in towards the back end of it, so I basically came in when the finals was on, so I was able to enjoy that ride.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was exciting for me because that was the first time I'd sort of seen. At that time, that was G Shield. That was correct, right? So that the second level there of the Broncos comp, and I was super impressed by the level of the competition. And so I think for me, it was just an exciting time to come in because I came in at the exciting time of the year.
What's your biggest memory of that year?
For me, it was probably just how close the playing squad was and how much they truly just love playing together and being coached by the coaching staff. And to come in and just see that, for me, that was really like the first sort of real piece of evidence that you'd taken the right direction and going from what it originally was to what it was starting to become. And they were just so competitive and wanted to win. And yeah, it was just a whole bunch of fun to be a part of, really.
Bretho, do you remember Phil Sammy and Ronaldo Mulatalo arriving? Well, Ronaldo was late 2013, but Phil Sammy was 2014.
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember both of them arriving. So obviously Ronaldo was, still very young when he arrived.
Who's around?
So I can remember him. Yeah, I can remember him and Lorenzo coming in and joining us and jumping in football class. And one of our early interactions was basically pulling him into line a little bit because they were running around.
He talks about that on podcasts and stuff all the time still.
Yeah, he does.
He owns it.
And me and him have spoken about it, before, sort of thing, where he sort of clearly remembers me grabbing him and sort of clipping him, going, "No, that's not how we do things here," sort of thing. And this is where, why those boys have both gone on to be successful is rather than take that and fob it off as something that a teacher said or getting in trouble one day or getting clipped, they actually took it on board, learnt from it, and took another step forward, sort of thing, which is saying to be said for probably most bits of advice they've been given, which is why they're successful.
One of my big memories, Harris, 2014, was a year 10 game against Coomber at Coomber.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? It was is it the Beer Cup?
Yeah.
And we we were behind the 8 ball. We shouldn't have won it, but and Ronaldo was really part of that, and we knew that we had a real special kid, didn't we?
Yeah, he was unbelievable that night. I was actually that time. I wasn't working at Ipswich. I was working out of Flagstone.
Yeah, you were just hanging around. You were just hanging around.
Being a weirdo. Yeah, but that was a cool afternoon. Pouring rain, freezing cold, middle of June, whatever it was. But yeah, he was phenomenal that afternoon. He just wanted the ball all the time and just competed so hard. And you saw a glimpse about sort of what his competitiveness was like and what he actually wanted to do and strive to become, because he was special that day, for sure.
So look, we've gone through the divisions. Sorry, brother, did you speak then?
No, I was gonna say, Lee, like, how do you reflect, as we talked about Ronaldo and Phil there, like, how do you reflect on them as juniors? Like, you've obviously coached a lot of juniors sort of thing, because the big thing that stuck out to me was both of them were actually highly competitive on a football field. So Phil had a similar thing that Ronaldo, that Harris just described about Ronaldo, where like he wanted the ball, he wanted to impact the game. But then off the field, Ronaldo couldn't turn it off in anything, whether it was a game of cards or training or whatever. Right. And Phil was more like a light switch. That's how I remembered him. What were your thoughts? Like,
the big thing I was still learning is that in Sydney, everything was quite mechanical when I was there. So somebody like Ronaldo or Philip Sammy would have been in a Harold Matthews system at that time in Sydney. And they would have been training 5 nights a week. They'd have been well ahead of the curve if they were down in Sydney in terms of how to train. So when I think back to them, I just saw 2 kids who were really talented but needed to learn so much about how to prepare and train. I mean, I think even Phil Sammy, when he left school, he still didn't have that sort of... he just did what he had to do. He didn't always push himself, and it's a learned thing. And he was a lot better when he left school than when he started school. So I think that was a big change. That was a big change I noticed, because 2014, brother, I was still a Sydney in my head. I was still a Sydney product kind of thing. I was comparing everything with Sydney. I think my big reflection from those days is we were the first school to do professional video in Southeast Queensland. Everyone else used to have a bit of a camcorder on the side of the field. We used to hire old Gordon. Now, Stephen Talavave is timing this perfectly. Bro.
That's unlike Steve to be late.
No, because I told him, Steve, you've timed this perfectly. We're live, we're recording, so don't swear.
Hey?
Don't swear. We've just been joined by Steve Talavave, and it's perfect timing, because guess what we're up to right now, mate?
Winning.
2015.
Winning 6 trophies.
We won a lot of that. Steve, you came in as a Polynesian liaison officer. If you'd have come in 2013, you'd have been looking after 3 kids. Now, how many are you looking after at Ipswich?
Under 400.
Oh, is that all?
That's all.
And you came in on the coaching staff. I'm going to show a picture now online for the viewers. It is us in the huddle at half-time in our first Super 6 game against Coombara at half-time. We were 22-0 down in points. What do you remember about that night? What do you remember about that game? I'll start with you, Steve. You're in the picture.
It was quite nerve-wracking. Obviously, the boys have never been in a situation like that. Obviously, playing against that sort of caliber. I know the year before they played against Wavell, but having a taste of that level, it was a bit different. You could see in their eyes that they sort of believed, but they just didn't know where to start. I remember your speech. I think that was a quite memorable speech. I think Brother and Harris have had quite a few similar speeches since then. I won't rephrase or replay.
It was energetic.
What you said, but it was.
I was quite calm. I was quite calm at halftime then, because from memory.
Yeah, from then, yes, definitely. And I think what you gave them was what they needed to hear. And they literally went in the second half and blew it off the park.
Tell us a story about that game, brother.
Well, yeah, I remember. Obviously, like Steve said, it was fairly nerve-wracking. We had played a couple of schools. We played Coombara before the year before and Wavell, but I think like actually being there and being part of the comp, you know, made it have a very different feeling. I can remember you calmly at halftime talking to the boys. I would be almost positive that you told them to take their jerseys off and just completely reset and sort of start afresh in the second half.
Mentally, metaphorically take the jerseys off. We
didn't physically take the jerseys off. No, we would tend not to do that.
No.
And I suppose the next memory after that is, the boys relaxed a little. Most importantly, we scored. We got on the board.
Yeah.
And then I think after that, they, sort of the pressure came off themselves. They realised they were capable of scoring points at that level. They were capable of playing that level. And momentum started to change, obviously, which was pretty exciting sort of thing. And I'm sure on the other side of the fence, there was an element of pressure for the opposition, because they probably weren't expecting us to be able to play football at that level. And so momentum changed really, really quickly, all the way up to Kalani's big moment.
The one-on-one strip.
Yeah.
And if I've managed to find it, everyone will be looking at it right now.
Found it?
When I edit it, if I find it, yeah. I lost a load of videos. Harris, I'll go to you, and then Steve. Out of all the years, I reckon 2015 was our most successful during my time, because we had the junior grand finals as well.
Yeah, we did. Yep. Yeah. So our year 8, our year 9 teams played. Year 8's played Wavell, I think it was, and our year 9's played Palm Beach. Unfortunately, I think both teams went down by 2 points.
Yeah.
But both games were played at Ipswich Reserve, and sort of the home grand finals, and it was always just a cool afternoon. It's not like, it's one of those moments too where you sort of see where the program comes from, and then that's another highlight to sort of see where you're at.
Hawley gave us home ground advantage because we had that many kids in the grand final.
Yeah.
So I sort of realised we were on the map a bit then. Steve, you just joined us. Where was your head at during that time?
If I was to go back, I'd probably appreciate it a little bit more. Because when I came on, like you said, it was my first year, I thought it was the norms. It was a bit like when I had a sort of an eye-opener like halfway through our season here at North Devils, and I thought it was the norms that we won every game. And then I got told we haven't won like this since 99. So, again, I've learned to appreciate it more. And hopefully, fingers crossed in the years to come that once we get there, we get the job done.
I think one of the big wins that year from the senior point of view was the Palm Beach win.
Yeah.
I think we won 8-4 on a cold night at Swifts.
Yeah.
That was.
Is there a hot night at Swifts? I don't think I've ever had one of
those. I think that was the moment, because Palm Beach were the state champions at the time. And Phil Sammy was playing right centre, I think. Ronaldo, 15-year-old fullback. We lost to Wavell in round 2, and that game was really crucial because that was going to turn our season into a winning season, basically. If we lost that game, it was going to be a losing season, and we were going to be in the bottom half of the draw, and I really wanted us to be in the top half of the draw, so that was a big one for me. Just to paint the picture to everyone, we've come through both divisions, and then we've got to the last round, so we're in the top division, what was then the Super 6, which I believe firmly is the best schoolboy competition in Australia, having coached in the Sydney one as well. We go to play Keebler in the last round, and we need to win by 16 points to win the Langer Trophy. So we've come up 3rd division, 2nd division, and we're within cooey of winning the Langer Trophy. Harris, tell our esteemed viewers what happened.
Well, we were waiting on the buses, and Pooley, his parents live on the Gold Coast.
Yeah, it was sunny. It was
sunny, beautiful day out. And I could be wrong. Pooley's not here to correct me, but I think Pooley's old man was at the lawn bowls place, I think, the club around the corner, and he was actually playing lawn bowls on the day of the game. And you get a text, was it from Keebler Park directly, or was it from Phil Hall? I can't remember what it was, saying the game was cancelled, raining, blah, blah, blah. And at the exact same time you get the text message, Pooley's texting his dad, who's playing lawn bowls at the lawn bowls club, saying, "No, it's a pretty nice day down here." So, I mean, I'm not quite sure what part of the coast Pooley's dad was on. Maybe he was on the south side, but
such were the rules, Steve, that was us done. That was the season over, and we ended up finishing joint 2nd. So I think we finished 3rd on points difference, but it was joint 2nd. And that affected our semi-final.
That afternoon, Steve's 3rd grade CISA team, they had a great team running on that team.
Yeah.
One of the most all-time stacked teams of all time.
So again, putting this into perspective for viewers, we've gone as a school from 2013 winning the Metro with our 1st grade. By this time, Steve, you were the 2nd and 3rd grade coach. You were 2nd and then 3rd grade from memory. And our 3rd grade were playing in the Metro Grand Final and won it.
Yes.
And then won it for how many years?
Would this be our 9th year, brother?
We're still winning it.
I think
we
we won
lost
7
this
out of the last 9. I think it was. I think, and
Yeah, 7 and 9. I think we won.
we were semi-finalists. So
Ipswich have lost 1 game in the Metros in 9 years, basically, or two
games.
Two games.
Yeah.
Wow. So this obviously puts into some kind of perspective, and that was with the school's 3rd grade.
Now be a good time to plug your book,
sorry?
Steve. Now be a good time for Steve to plug his book that he wrote about his winning years.
Yeah.
First it was relentless.
That
was following my lead.
And then we sat having lunch at Christmas at the end of that year, reflecting on a great year. It was a great year. And then some strange man walks in with a Northern Queensland accent and says, "I'm John Doerr. I know everything. I'm here to save the day."
I thought it was Anthony Clear.
John Doerr, how did we change your life?
So you got to let me put a little bit more into context. So I finished uni. I'd gone overseas for a month. I'd just gotten back from a trip. I still was jet lag. I got a phone call from the principal saying, "Do you want a job at Ipswich?" And I didn't even know where I was at the time. I was still, thinking I was overseas. Come in for an interview, and he just walked me straight into you guys and said, "If you can get along with these boys, you got a job," pretty much. So, yeah, I sat there.
If I'd have known that, I would have stuck up at it.
And you sat there for like half an hour with us. Gee, that was awkward.
Yeah, it was so awkward because I had no idea who any of you guys were. I didn't even know if I had a job.
I think we were in fancy dress, weren't we?
Yeah,
I think we were
dressed up black and white suit, like from MIV.
Yeah, you guys were all dressed in school kids' uniform because you dressed up pretending to be the kids. And I was there in like Steve said, I had my only button-up shirt that I owned at the time and my only tie that I had. And I met the crew. But to be honest, I hadn't really heard of Ipswich. I was at the time where I was just sending resumes out anywhere and everywhere just to try and get a job, especially at like one of the footy schools.
Nothing much has changed then?
No, nothing much has changed. So, yeah, I got the job and started the next year and
I just love how proud of you there, Lee. You're just truly pumped to have that comment then.
Yeah, do you like how I tried to deflect it? Didn't want to give too much attention to it. Yeah. But yeah, I started Ipswich High. I'd come from working in the Melbourne system. So I'd seen a little bit of under 18s football and I was working at North Devils at the time. So we were pretty successful that year. So I had no idea, but coming to schoolboy football is definitely another step up again. Just the sheer amount of time we have to work with the kids, allows us to just be that little bit more professional with what we do. We were running GPS when I first started. The head department of science at the time, he donated us some GPS units. We had heart rate monitors. Just being able to see. For me, turning up to 7 a.m. gym sessions. I'd get there 6:30, thinking I'd be early, and there'd be 30 kids standing out in the cold in Ipswich waiting for the gym to open. I was I was pretty impressed. It was really good to kind of walk into and see what that next level kind of looked like.
So you've arrived at the school. Did you feel like you needed to do much to the gym program when you were there, or was it just a case of letting it run?
No, I suppose Pooley had everything running like clockwork because at the time he'd left to take a head of department job at another school. So I kind of was in the right place at the right time. He had everything working well. I suppose for me, my biggest thing was getting used to, working in a school in an area like Ipswich where, there's a few rough and tumble kids, but also just in a professional program with 60 kids all in the gym at the same time. I'd never seen anything like that before. And just being able to, manage that kind of stuff. And I suppose something that Bredlo touched on earlier was built, the thing I learned straight away was building relationships with the kids. And that was the way you got work out of them, because if you didn't, they'd tell you.
I'll go across the line now, left to right, as I look at it, with the question, what do you remember for 2016, Bredlo?
Wow, you should have gone with someone else first. I got to trigger the year.
It was the year we finished second with the last round game at
you can get them
Marsden
if you're struggling.
Yeah, and we had I remember the big thing that stands out of that was Farley is actually the first thing that jumps to mind is a player.
Farley, Luma Farley.
I thought what Farley did for us that year was exceptional. It was sort of he left
a contract. Oh.
Yeah, he left a lasting memory in my head as to he put together an unbelievable season. And also he's just a bloke that you absolutely love. He's a lovable guy, sort of thing as well. So he was sort of one of those unforgettable students. So 2016 sort of triggers me to think straight at him. And then so we put together a really successful year. That was, and you can edit this out if I'm incorrect, that was the year we lose Keyra Park by 4 points?
Yep.
And
it was 36. Well, yeah, I'll edit it out because it was 36-30.
Okay, and they were
6 points.
Yeah, okay. Well, we were the closest anyone got to them in the country, and I think that was the year that Payne Haas and Thomas McAiley was in schoolboys together.
And they got to the national grand final.
Peter was young that year too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And Tanner
David
was young that
Fafita,
year.
Tanner Boyd. It was like 8 kids who went on to play NRL in the one age group.
So they had this just ridiculous side, and us with also a very, very good side. We had some very talented footballers in there like Farley, Ronaldo, and that. But I felt like we were the only people in the country that were going to get anywhere near it.
Yeah. Harris, what do you remember?
I think for me, Austin Bernard was the highlight for me that year.
Call.
I was reserve grade coach that year, and I remember the first day he showed up to school. It was like week 3 of term 1 or week 4, and we did an opposed session, reserve grade versus first grade, and he was on my side of the ball, and he just carved you up. Made all your boys look stupid. Yeah. And that was the last time I ever coached him. You took him the next session.
I was going to say, brother, I don't remember that. Do you?
He's one of his absolute freakish talents, and he's had still to this day the best palm I've ever seen on a player. And,
I don't know what NRL clubs won apart from the obvious thing that I remember him single-handedly tearing Keyra apart in that big game.
I was going to mention that he was unbelievable that night.
I always talk about that game. There was about 11 future NRL players playing in it in 2016, and 4 future Origin players. And 5 people went off in an ambulance after that game. 3 of them from Ipswich, 2 of them from Keyra. And I don't remember that being a dirty game. I just remember it being brutal.
No, it was just brutal. They were just both teams were just outstanding. It was just a brutal game of football.
And the crowd was crazy and all that. But Austin Bernard scored a couple of tries in that game. Then the other game that stands out was we beat Wavell for the first time, and it sort of led to a good future against Wavell since then. It was like the game that we turned that around as well. Yeah. Dor, what do you remember?
I can remember mine's actually from a training session, and we talked about how competitive Ronaldo was. One thing that kind of stood out for me was I think we were playing like a game of touch in a warm-up session. It was like a 7 a.m. session. It was like 3 degrees or something on the Oval in Ipswich. And the week before, 2 days before a game, and Ronaldo ran from one side of the field to the other, chasing someone down and diving for a touch because he could not lose. It was last try wins. He could not lose the warm-up. So that was something in my head where I looked at him and went, this kid is crazy. Yeah,
Steve, what
could
do you
not lose
remember?
the warm-up.
2016.
I think that was the year I let the boys touch the football for the first time in pre-season. So at that stage, we were still on the back oval. So we were still, I was still
banished to the back oval.
Oh, banished, totally. Now these boys, these days are lucky to even be included in our pre-season. So, the third grade, I think they went undefeated that year again. And
relentless.
Relentless, yeah. So was that the year that we lost in semis against?
No, I think that was the year. I think that was 2014.
Did you beat Tollawong that year, Steve, in the Metros?
Who?
I think you beat Tollawong at Wynnum that year, didn't you?
Tollawong, okay. No, but I mean for our big boys, was that the year that we lost to Coomba?
Yeah, Coomba.
Yeah.
In the semis, because they got to the state grand final that year.
I couldn't believe that happened. I thought that was one of our best teams.
Well, I'm going to move it on to the next year because I think that was our best team. So we finished joint second, Super 6, 2015, outright second, 2016, 2017. My last year there.
Can I jump on 2016 again? Sorry, things come back to me slowly, as we know, sort of thing. Was that the year that we played Marsden at Swifts and it would have been almost pitch black because the lights weren't functioning also?
No, that was 2015.
2 years late. Okay,
yeah. You get back. You get back in the corner, brother.
I'll get back. I was going to reminisce on Phil Sami and Corey Allen going head to head. That was
there was that, but also
that was quite unbelievable.
I have big memory of that. I used to rotate the captains, and Set A was the big Set A who had to have a shirt specially fitted for him. Was the captain, and little Matthew, who looks like a jockey, was the referee. So when the captain was talking to the referee, it literally looked like Sete could have put the ref in his pocket. It brought a new meaning to the words, have the ref in his pocket.
He was a big man.
2017. What a great team. We signed, I don't know if you remember that year, Tremaine Spry signed a really good contract at the Roosters. Lupe did as well. We had a good night in camp where both of the boys signed and celebrated it hugely. The 2017, I think that was our best team, Steve. We beat Palm Beach round 1. Now I've already forgotten what we did. Hebrew round 2 again. It was Ipswich 10, David Fafita 18. He was basically the difference, if you remember.
Yeah.
He ran over Benetti for one try and round somebody else for another. He was basically the difference that day. That was the year that we won the national title, Keebra. But then we beat all the others. And it was a badly rain-affected year. Then we had to play Wavell to win the Langer Trophy. We had to beat them by 2 points, if you remember that year.
Mm.
You remember?
If
Was
we
that
go
the year
back
we did
to-
our maths inside the bakery?
Say that again.
Is that the year we did our maths equations inside the bakery in regards to
That's
the time?
right. Yeah. And we got them all wrong. Yeah.
Halftime score of the Wavell game was 22-0 or 24-0 down?
Something like that. And we ended up being in the lead. And then Lorenzo Mulatalo, who would never drop a ball ever, drops a kickoff.
Yep.
And it ended up being 30-all or 26-all or something. So we missed out on the Langer Trophy by 2 points in terms of points differential, not anything else. So that concludes my time, boys. There, I was done after that. I decided I'd had enough. Yeah, go.
I just want to jump in because highlight for me that year was at Palm Beach round 1. I think the score was we were up maybe 6-4 or something like that, and Palm Beach had an overlap. We're shifting the ball. Only a couple of minutes left in the game, and Tremaine was at centre that year. And instead of just making the tackle on a 3-on-1, which most people would have done in true Tremaine fashion, he went for the intercept, got the ball around the whole field, and won us the game. It was just pretty much everything he did summed up in one play.
My memory of that Palm Beach game, and I'm good mates with Zimmo, but I actually went round the back of the sheds. I was worried about Palm Beach, so I listened to his pre-match team talk. So I just gave our boys the tactics. Steve, what do you remember of 2017, that last year?
I think that was the year we had Sung at fullback.
Yes.
He was a turning point when he, I believe that was the turning point when he got injured from Union that year, the Queensland Schoolboys Union.
Yeah.
And I think we shifted, I think it was Kia to fullback.
Yes.
We had some other injuries, but it was one of the biggest turning points. I think that year still haunts me to this day.
Yes.
With our exiting game, the Marsden game.
Yeah.
Still haunts me.
That playoff game, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like I said, 2015, 2016 were some of our best teams, but 2017, I fully felt that was going to be our year. We just fell a little bit short, I guess.
Harris, your memories?
Yeah, same as Steve, I guess. The heartbreak in the sheds after the semi-final with Marsden. You feel so confident, especially after the year we had. We had such a great season that there was just confidence in everybody, and then all of a sudden the life got sucked out of you, and you're sort of sitting there, achieving nothing. It's a sad feeling, but no, overall the actual year itself was a cracker, really, except for that one day.
Bredo?
Yeah,
wake up, Bredo, you're on.
Yeah, sorry. My reflection of it, just a very, very talented football side. I remember the amount of work over those 2 or 3 seasons, like leading up to that we were all putting in as coaching staff. Like, I think, like I said, we talked about where we came from and then where we got to, and we very quickly got to the absolute pointy end of schoolboy league in Queensland.
Yes.
We didn't quite get it together and win the trophy, but like we truly believed in house that like we could take it to anyone on their day.
Yes.
For those few years, and I just remember like how hard we all worked because we all had bought into something and were truly believing like that, success was right there in front of us, sort of thing. And
I feel that was a zenith.
Yeah.
That was a zenith.
And then
I remember that year as a coach who coached by then. I was an 18-year coach by then. Like, I remember in many ways that was the easiest year because I had so much trust in all you lot, apart from Dore. I had so much trust in all you. I was begging for Pooley to come back. I had so much trust in all you lot that I was just managing the environment. You know, you guys used to run most of the drills basically in training, and I would just tie it all together. I'd speak at the start of training. I'd run the team sessions, the 13-13. But basically everything else, Bretho, was you, Harris, and Dore. And I honestly felt truly in my heart at the time that was the right time to hand over to you. So, yeah, you pick up the story from now, mate. And then all I can do now is talk as an outsider.